There's a specific kind of exhaustion that comes from being an adult before you were ready. Not the kind where you had responsibilities. I'm talking about the kind where you were the parent, the caretaker, the one holding everything together while the actual adults fell apart. Maybe your mother was depressed, so you became her therapist, her emotional support, the one who managed her moods and made sure she didn't collapse entirely. Maybe your father was absent, or drunk, or just checked out, so you stepped up. You took care of your siblings, you cooked, you cleaned, you made sure everyone was okay because if you didn't, no one else would. Maybe both parents were there physically but gone emotionally, so you became the stable one, the responsible one, the one who figured everything out alone because asking for help reminded everyone that the adults weren't functioning. And here's the part that destroys you. You didn't just lose your childhood. You learned that your role in life is to take care of everyone else, that your needs don't matter, that love means sacrifice, that being valuable means being useful, that resting is selfish. You became the parent too early, and now, decades later, you're still playing that role, still overfunctioning, still managing everyone's emotions but your own, still exhausted in ways you can't even name. Before you think this is just about being mature for your age, let me be clear. Being forced into a parental role as a child isn't responsibility training. It's a theft of development. When you're a child, your brain is still forming. You're supposed to be learning how to play, how to make mistakes, how to be taken care of. Your job is to be a kid, to need things, to have your emotional world held by adults who are capable of holding it. But when your parents can't function, whether through depression, addiction, immaturity, or absence, someone has to step up. And if you are the oldest, the most capable, the most emotionally aware, that someone becomes you. Psychologists call this parentification. It's when a child is forced into a caretaker role, managing adult responsibilities and emotions they're not developmentally ready for. And research shows it doesn't just affect your childhood. It rewires how you see yourself and relationships for the rest of your life. But those clinical terms don't capture what it actually felt like. It felt like being 10 years old and making dinner because no one else would. Like being 12 and managing your mother's emotions after a breakup. Like being 15 and raising your younger siblings because your parents were too consumed by their own problems to notice anyone else existed. It felt like you never got to be a child, because children get to be irresponsible, messy, needy, but you learned early that needing things meant burdening people, that asking for help meant admitting the adults were failing, so you just handled it alone. I had a friend whose mother had severe depression, and from the time they were 8, they were the one making sure she took her medication, making sure she ate, listening to her talk about things no child should hear, and they never complained, never asked for help, because they loved her, and they thought this was what love meant. But it cost them. It cost them the ability to be carefree, to trust that someone else would handle things, to believe their own needs mattered. And maybe that was you. Maybe you were the kid who grew up too fast, who took on weight you were never meant to carry, and you did it because you had no choice, because if you didn't, everything would collapse. But it shaped you in ways that are still suffocating you. Here's what happens when you're forced to be an adult as a child. You don't just take on responsibilities. You internalize beliefs that distort how you see yourself in the world. You learned that your needs are a burden. Other kids could ask for things, could be needy, could expect their parents to show up. You learned that needing something meant adding to the chaos, that asking for help reminded everyone the system was broken. So you stopped asking, and now you can't advocate for yourself. You say, "I'm fine," when you're drowning because needing help still feels like weakness. You learn that love means sacrifice. In your house, love wasn't about being cared for. It was about caring for others. You showed love by taking care of everyone, by managing emotions, by making sure everyone else was okay. And now, in relationships, you don't know how to receive. You only know how to give, and you give until you're empty because that's the only version of love you were taught. You learned that being valuable means being useful. You weren't loved for who you were valued for what you did, for how much you could handle, how well you could manage, how little you complained. And now you can't rest. You can't stop working, performing, over-functioning, because if you're not useful, what are you worth? You learned that adults are unreliable. The people who were supposed to take care of you couldn't or wouldn't. So you learned that depending on others is dangerous, that if something needs to be done, you have to do it yourself. And now you can't trust people, you can't delegate, you can't let anyone else carry anything because you've been burned by adults who promised to show up and didn't. You learned that emotions are problems to be managed. Your parents' emotions took up all the space. You had to manage their moods, their breakdowns, their chaos. So you learned that feelings aren't information, they're inconveniences. And now you don't know how to process your own emotions. You suppress them, ignore them, manage everyone else's while burying your own. You learned that childhood is a luxury you didn't deserve. Other kids got to play, to be reckless, to make mistakes without consequences. You didn't. You had to be the responsible one, the calm one, the one who held it together. And now you don't know how to play, how to be spontaneous, how to not be hypervigilant and over-responsible for everyone around you. This is why you struggle with boundaries, because saying no feels like abandoning someone. This is why you struggle with receiving, because being taken care of feels foreign, even dangerous. This is why you're exhausted all the time, because you've been in survival mode since you were a child and you never learned how to turn it off. When you're parentified as a child, you don't just take on one role, you fracture into multiple versions, each one trying to keep the system from collapsing. The manager says, "If you don't handle this, no one will. You have to keep everything together." So you became the one who fixes things, who anticipates problems, who manages crises before they happen. And now you can't stop managing. You overfunction in every relationship. You take on everyone's problems. You can't relax because relaxing means things might fall apart. The invisible one whispers, "Don't add to the chaos. Your problems aren't as important." So you learned to minimize yourself, to make your needs small, to never ask for anything because asking meant being a burden. And now you disappear in relationships. You prioritize everyone else. You don't voice your pain because it still feels selfish. The protector says, "They need you. You're the only thing keeping this family from falling apart." So you carried the weight. You shielded your siblings. You managed your parents' emotions. And now you can't stop protecting people, even when they don't need it, even when it's destroying you, because protecting is the only way you know how to love. The resentful one screams, "You never got to be a kid. They stole that from you." So there's anger, deep, buried anger at the adults who failed you, at the childhood you didn't get, at the fact that you had to be strong when you should have been allowed to be weak. And that anger sits in your chest, unprocessed, because expressing it feels like betraying the people you sacrificed everything for. The exhausted one whispers, "I'm so tired. I've been tired since I was 10. So you're burned out in ways that don't make sense to people who had normal childhoods. They don't understand why you can't just relax, why you can't accept help, Why you seem fine but are constantly on the edge of collapse, because you've been running on fumes for decades. And beneath all of them, there's the child. The one who never got to be a child. The one who wanted to play, to be reckless, to need things without guilt. But that child, you buried them because the world you lived in had no space for childishness. It shows up in ways you don't connect to your childhood. Like last week, when someone offered to help you with something, and you instinctively said no. Not because you didn't need help, but because accepting it feels uncomfortable, vulnerable, like admitting you can't handle everything. So you do it alone, even when you're drowning, because that's what you've always done. Or last month, when you were exhausted, burned out, needed rest, and you felt guilty about it, because rest feels selfish, feels like you're letting people down, feels like you're abandoning your post. So you keep going, keep working, keep managing everyone else's lives while yours falls apart. Or yesterday, when someone tried to take care of you, made you dinner, asked how you were really doing, and you deflected, made it about them, changed the subject, because being cared for feels foreign, uncomfortable, like you're breaking some unspoken rule. This is why you're the friend everyone leans on, but you lean on no one. Because you learned that your role is to hold others, not be held. This is why you overgive in relationships, because you don't know how to show love except through sacrifice, through usefulness, through making yourself indispensable. This is why you can't enjoy good moments, because even when things are calm, you're waiting for the next crisis. You're scanning for problems. You're managing everyone's emotions because that's what you've done your whole life. Developmental psychology shows that parentified children often struggle with what's called compulsive caregiving, the inability to stop taking care of others even when it's harming you. You learn that your worth is tied to your usefulness, and that belief follows you into every relationship, every job, every space you occupy. But here's what you need to understand, and this is crucial. You didn't just lose something, you also built something. I know that sounds like bullshit, like I'm trying to make parentification sound good. I'm not. What happened to you was wrong. You deserved to be a child. You deserved to be taken care of. And the fact that you weren't, that's on the adults who failed you. But you did develop capacities that most people never have to develop. You became hyper-responsible, hyper-capable, emotionally intelligent in ways that others aren't. You can read rooms, manage crises, function under pressure that would break most people. And yes, those capacities came at a cost. Yes, they hurt you, but they're real and they're powerful. You're more resilient than people who had easier childhoods, because you've been handling impossible situations since you were a kid. While others panic under pressure, you just handle it. Not because you're better, because you've been doing it your whole life. You're deeply empathetic to people who are struggling, because you know what it's like to carry weight alone. So when someone's overwhelmed, you don't judge, you show up, you help, because you've been there. You're capable in ways that intimidate people. Because you learned young that if something needs to be done, you do it. You don't wait for permission. You don't need validation. You just figure it out. And that makes you someone people rely on. And look, I'm not saying your entire childhood was stolen. There were probably moments of lightness, days when you got to be a kid, even briefly. Times when you laughed, played, had fun despite everything. You weren't just surviving, you were also living. You figured out how to find joy in the gaps. You became self-aware earlier than most. You learned things about yourself, about people, about resilience that others your age couldn't grasp. You didn't just become a parent too early. You became someone who understands complexity, who can hold contradictions, who survived something that should have broken you and came out capable, intelligent, and deeply aware. This is post-traumatic growth. Not that the trauma was good, but that you grew in response to it. And those strengths, they're yours, even if they came from pain. The question is, can you honor what you survived without letting it define every relationship you have? You don't have to be the parent anymore. I know that feels impossible, because being the caretaker is all you know. It's how you show love, how you feel valuable, how you justify your existence. But you're allowed to stop, to rest, to be taken care of, to have needs, to not manage everyone's emotions. You're allowed to be the child you never got to be. Even now, as an adult, you're allowed to play, to be reckless, to ask for help without guilt, to need things without apologizing. And yes, that's terrifying, because it means letting go of the role that's kept you safe, the role that made you matter, the role that made people need you. But here's the thing, people can love you without needing you. You can be valuable without being useful. You can rest without the world collapsing. You were a child who was forced to be an adult, and that wasn't fair. But you're not that child anymore. You have choices now. You can set boundaries. You can say no. You can prioritize yourself without it being selfish. You survived by being the parent, but you don't have to keep surviving that way. Imagine this. You're carrying a bag. It's heavy, full of everyone's problems, everyone's emotions, everyone's needs. You've been carrying it so long you don't remember what it feels like to walk without it, and you realize you don't have to carry it anymore. Not because you're abandoning anyone, but because it was never supposed to be yours in the first place. You can set it down. You can walk away. You can choose yourself. You can let other people carry their own weight. And when you do, something shifts. You're lighter, freer, not because you stopped caring, but because you finally realized you're allowed to care about yourself too. The child who had to be the parent, they can rest now. And the adults you've become, they can finally just be. Make courage to take something off your chest. Share what feels real with us. I'll be reading through these, and I think we'll realize how many of us were turned into adults when we should have just been kids.